a young woman in my 20s who wears glasses. I study English literature at university. I like to sit in front of my books to film. I basically need coffee to survive, and I definitely want to be an author when I grow up. Okay, right, basically this is just really awkward, so let's just get the introduction over and done with. Hi, hey, hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Ash. You don't know me, I don't know you. That is the whole point of this kind of introduction video that we are doing today. So, it is lockdown 2 Electric Boogaloo here in the UK, which means I am bored, I have a lot of extra time on my hands, and I have decided to start a BookTube channel because I'm slowly but surely getting back into the habit of reading every day. Which is what brings us here. I have decided today to do the BookTuber Newbie Tag because I am a newbie on BookTube. And I think this is a good way to kind of introduce you to me and hopefully like what I can bring to BookTube. Okay, so a bit of background as to why I've decided to do this video instead of literally any other video that I could have done on BookTube. Basically, I was watching a video on fictional fates. I discovered that channel after binging a lot of Read with Cindy. I found this channel, he did the newbie booktuber tag. I will link that video down below because that is where I got the idea from. And I've decided that it is a really good way to kind of introduce myself to BookTube. This is something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. I've always really loved reading, but it's never something that I've, had the time to do. However, now that I can't, leave my house or go to Waterstones or like buy any books, I have plenty of time now, so yeah, let's get on with the tag. Question 1, why did you start this channel? Well, I just gave one reason why I started a BookTube channel in the intro because I didn't read the questions before I started this video. Well done, Ash, we are on a roll. But another reason is because I don't actually know that many bookish people. I don't actually really know any bookish people. None of my friends are particularly avid readers. Like, they read, they just don't have time to, read a whole book in a day because they are actual functioning adults, and I am a hot mess. Also, I just really want to talk about books all the time, and I thought it would be better to put that onto the internet at large instead of boring a specific person with my thoughts on what I read last week, because that's how I end up with no friends. Question 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? Well, I'm a young woman in my 20s who wears glasses. I study English literature at university. I like to sit in front of my books to film. I basically need coffee to survive, and I definitely want to be an author when I grow up. But what I can bring is another perspective. I feel like no two people will ever interpret the same book the same way, and I love to have discussions about why people judged a book the way they did, what they thought of a book, how they interpreted it compared to how I interpreted it. And I think to do that, you just need to be around people who have different opinions to you, and that is what I can bring, a different opinion. Sometimes they will not be the most popular opinion in the room. I'm just gonna warn you now. Number 3, what are you most excited for about this new channel? Meeting book people. Like I said, I don't have that many bookish friends. I don't really speak to anyone in real life that reads loads, and I'm most excited for just getting to know other people that are as passionate about books as me, or sometimes like even more passionate than I am, because I do go through phases where I'm like, yeah, I ain't gonna read today, it's just not gonna happen. And just kind of meet people who have similar interests to me, which would be really nice, because as I said, don't really have a lot of friends. Question 4, why do you love reading? Literally, this question is one of the hardest ones to answer for me because I don't remember a time where I've never loved reading, which sounds so pretentious. But I think a lot of my passion comes from the fact that when I was growing up, when I was a really little kid, there was always an emphasis on reading. My granddad would read me bedtime stories. I would, help him write a novel. I always was encouraged to read. I was encouraged to read from a really young age, and it's just kind of fostered that passion within me. And I still love reading now because it's total escapism. The world could be on fire outside, and basically is at the moment, and I can lose myself in a good book, a lovely fantasy, or a really sweet romance, or even something that's like really dark and scary. I just like being able to, lose myself in a story and forget about the outside world for a little while. Question 5, what book or series got you into reading? Again, this is another really hard question because I don't remember a time where I ever didn't read, if that makes sense. So the books that probably got me into reading the most would be Lord of the Rings, oddly enough, because that is something that my granddad really loves. He loves Tolkien, like all of Tolkien's work, especially Lord of the Rings, and that was one of the bedtime stories that he would read me and my brother when we stayed at our grandparents' house. I loved it. I didn't really understand what was going on sometimes, but I really, really loved Lord of the Rings. And I also, and this was another one that was read to us as a bedtime story, but I just genuinely didn't understand what was going on. It was just a book that I really liked, was Journey to the West. I just like the descriptions of the Monkey King and of when they go to the fairy kingdom, I think it's called, or like the god's kingdom. There's a garden full of fairies and they all have different fruits. And that, I just really liked the imagery in it. I also really like Tripitaka, and I really like the Monkey TV series. I also really enjoyed The New Adventures of Monkey on Netflix, but this is getting really off topic. So those are probably the two books that got me into reading. The first book I remember reading for myself that was really my choice, other than like the Floppy the Dog, Magic Key type stuff that really young kids read, was a book called Gobelino the Witch's Cat. And it is about a cat called Gobelino who is a witch's cat, but he's a bit of a naff witch's cat because he doesn't really want to be bad, he doesn't really want to do magic, he has a white paw and it's a bit of a dusty grey instead of pure black, and it's basically, he goes on an adventure. I don't remember it 100%, I was in year 1 when I read this book, which would be about 5 or 6 here in the UK, so I was really, really young. That's like nearly 20 years ago that I read this book, and I still remember it now, that it had such an impact on me that I really realized then that I loved reading, and it's something that I really, felt strongly about. Question 6. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? How do you do it? How do you, get over the anxiety of putting yourself out there, giving opinions on books, especially if you're giving an opinion on a book that is quite popular and well loved and you didn't like it? How do you cope with that? Also, specifically for the lovely Read with Cindy, how do you still have such an I don't give a fuck attitude? I long to do that. I long to be the sort of person that is just like, yeah, here's my opinion, here's my opinion, I don't care what you think. But I get so nervous when people say, Ash, do you like this book? And I have to be like, yeah, not really, but I understand why people would like it. It's just, it's not really for me. It's not my thing. I don't really vibe with it. I always feel like I have to be so careful, and then there are some people out there that are just like, yeah, I didn't like that, and I'm so unapologetic about it. And I would like to know how to do that as well. Question 7. What challenges do you think will be the hardest to overcome? So as I just mentioned, anxiety. The thing is, I shouldn't really have that much anxiety because this isn't my first YouTube rodeo, which makes me sound so old. I do have another channel, it's just Ash. It's kind of dead at the moment. I don't really post on it anymore. And also, I've done Twitch in the past as well, so I shouldn't have so much anxiety about being on the internet. But it's just something that you have to get over every time, especially linking in with the last question, when it's something that requires giving an opinion, because I'm very scared of what people think of me sometimes. Other than that, I think it's going to be something along the lines of reading for myself and trying to keep my content for myself as well. I've fallen into this hole in the past where I've started creating content that wasn't for me. It was for either the algorithm or for what other people wanted me to do instead of something that I wanted to do for myself, and then it starts to get really unenjoyable. I start to not really like what I'm doing and it becomes a bit of a chore. So I think, yeah, keeping true to myself, which again sounds really cheesy and cliche, but that's something that really is important to me, especially with this channel, because reading is such a big part of my life. I really want to keep it, as something that is for me. Question 8. When did you start reading? I literally do not remember. I do not remember a time where I haven't read, or at least been read to. As I mentioned, I had bedtime stories read to me growing up. I read Gobelino the Witch's Cat when I was in year 1, which is like 5 or 6. Younger than that, I don't really remember what I was reading, so I guess really I started reading at 5-ish. Question 9, where do you read? Everywhere, and I literally do mean everywhere. So I will lay in bed, I will sit at my desk, I will sit in my reading nook, I'll sit on my sofa, in the bath, I will have a book. I have a Kindle as well, so that comes with me on bus journeys when I go home to see my mum, when I'm allowed, because, you know, can't do that at the moment. I also, this is a bit cheeky, so I have a Kindle, but I have the Kindle app on my phone too, and where I work is quite quiet, and sometimes I'm like the only person there, so I will read on my phone while I'm at work. I've also taken books to work on days that I know are going to be dead and I'm not going to have to serve people, and just sat and read them as well. And question 10, what kinds of books do you like to read? Everything? Again? Okay, well, not everything. Not everything. I will read most things. If you put a book in front of me and say, Ash, read this, chances are I'll read it. I may not like it, but I will read it. The only books that I really don't get on with is I don't really like non-fiction books. And the reason for that is reading is an escapist fantasy for me. I read to forget about the outside world, to lose myself in the story, experience something that, you know, I wouldn't necessarily get to experience in real life. And if I'm reading non-fiction, all it does is remind me that outside of the book, it can be really terrible. Even if it's an autobiography or something like that, because no one's life is 100% good times all the time. That is just a fact. And I don't really like to read about real people's hardships. I know I should, because I should be open to, you know, seeing things from other people's point of view, and I am. I just don't like to read about it when I'm trying to relax. Also, I have to read a few non-fiction books for my course, which are very much, you know, biographies and history stuff, and I just find it really boring, really. But other than that, I will read pretty much anything: contemporary, romance, historical fiction, literary fiction, manga. Manga's a big one, actually, because I always feel a bit more emotional when I come away from a manga than I do a traditional novel. I think it's because there's an extra visual element with the artwork of manga, which makes the emotions just feel a lot stronger. Basically anything at all. I haven't got many standards. So yeah, I guess that's the end. That's the end of the newbie tag. Anyway, I hope this has been kind of informative as to, you know, the sort of person that I am. I've never really been very good at ending videos, so I guess I'll just say, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, I'm thinking of doing the 25 bookish facts about me at some point as another way of kind of introducing you guys to me. And yeah, I guess if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. You can also like follow me on Twitter and stuff. All of the links are going to be in the description. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all very much for watching, guys. I hope I see you again for some more book talk.